Did you know that the Golden State Warriors could have a favorite in the 2020 draft, with a good chance of picking a player who can improve on last season's poor performance? That's right, the Golden State Warriors had a record of 15-50, the worst in the league. Could a center like James Wiseman change that? Stay with us and we'll tell you why it's possible, or give you some insight into why not, and let you draw your own conclusions. The San Francisco franchise seemed to have marveled at the performance of center James Wiseman, who played at the University of Memphis until an NCAA sanction forced him to leave the campus and usual route of young players in the United States. The Warriors could have Wiseman as a top project facing their elections in the next draft, as is being announced in several media reports. This season, the Golden State have the worst record in the NBA and a 14% chance of winning the #1 draft, the same as the teams with the second and third worst record of the season. Even when it was possible for the tournament to resume, rather than be suspended, it was still likely that the team Steve Kerr was coaching would have access to more #1 choices. The Warriors have a significant vacancy in the center position, as Kevin Looney is the only player with such a position, and only Dragan Bender, on a temporary contract for last season, was over 7 feet tall before the break. That way, it is possible that the Bay Area entity will go for Wiseman in the next draft. He would even be an excellent complement to the other golden values, like Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, who are now considered the 2 best shooters in history. And speaking of them, it seems unbelievable that during their first years in the NBA, not even the Golden State Warriors had any idea they could reach the superlative level they have shown in their last seasons. Did you know they were about to trade them in 2011? What a disaster it would have been to lose those two. But we don't want you to get distracted. Let's save that gossip for another video. We'll just say that having them on the team, the Golden State Warriors could complete a luxury lineup by adding Wiseman in the middle. It should also be noted that while Wiseman is one of the top candidates to be named first, players like Anthony Edwards from Georgia, LaMelo Ball from Australia, or Obi Toppin from Dayton are also on that podium. The Warriors could also choose Wiseman and trade him in for a veteran who would allow them to compete for the championship again alongside Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Andrew Wiggins. But despite the rumors, it's not so clear if the Warriors covet the great James Wiseman in the 2020 NBA draft. Our spies have seen a report that Wiseman is at the top of the Golden State Board of Directors, although we recently learned that the board has not yet been finalized. And we have also heard that the Dubs are higher up at Onyeka Okongwu. Ultimately, it will be very surprising if Wiseman falls out of the top 5. Depending on who wins the lottery, he could end up being the first player selected. I don't really care about having the #1 spot, to be honest. I just want to get better and be a student of the game. Having real NBA veterans will teach you a lot about the game of basketball. Being in that kind of environment will make my game develop tremendously, the player said, adding later, "I just want to go to a team where I can fit in and be successful." Many draft analysts believe Wiseman would be a perfect fit for the Warriors as a center that can serve as a threat on the offensive side while protecting the hoop on the defensive. Okay, we understood that being in the center is just having the same distance for both sides. I think we can already say that we are analysts. But there are question marks about his engine and his sense of play. A few days ago, they told Wiseman, in a survey of 35 NBA executives about who they would take with the #1 overall team, 20 of the 35 chose you. That's good. That's a blessing, the 19-year-old said. When I got into the league, I was trying to make a name for myself. I don't really care about the numbers. I could go #1, #2, or #3. I'm ready to become a better player, he replied, flattered and with a winning mentality. So it's time to tell you who he is and how Wiseman plays, one of the top candidates to be #1 in the next draft. James Wiseman is a 7-foot, 242-pound center, born on March 31st, 2001 in Nashville. His name has already been in the mouth of the specialists and projects for the draft, standing out at high school level and also with the U.S. junior teams. His consideration was so positive that ESPN ranked him as the best prospect in the country, facing his entry into the NCAA from the hand of Memphis. However, Wiseman's 2019 to 2020 was far from what was expected, since, due to legal issues, he could only play 3 games with the Tigers, during which he averaged 19.7 points, 10.7 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 77% on the line in just 23 minutes of action. Since December, the center has been inactive and is already looking forward to his jump to the NBA. Regarding his strengths, the first thing that jumps out of Wiseman is his unbeatable physical and athletic condition. Not only does he have very good height and explosion, but he also adds long arms, agility, speed, and fluidity of movement. In that aspect, it is impossible to find a better pick for the 2020 draft. At this point, most of Wiseman's points come in defining situations, where he can take advantage of those natural tools, finishing alley-oops, or other types of plays created by his teammates. Another way Wiseman adds offensively is by charging the offensive rebound. The sample is very small, but in 69 minutes in the NCAA, he dropped 13 offensive rebounds. Wiseman also takes advantage of his athletic ability to add in transition, and is really hard to stop once he gets in speed. Among the things that are troubling about the center is his perimeter play. It's very limited, but it shows a glimpse of a talent he's likely to develop in the NBA. He can occasionally score the shot at mid-range, and during his high school career even surprised us with some triples. His mechanics are not the best, and he has a lot to work with, but the flashes of that aspect of his game are there. Another point in favor of his correct touch, he threw 19 and 27, 70%, in free throws with the Tigers. An interesting number for a center of his characteristics and age. The number is well above the 24 and 41, 59%, he had scored in AAU basketball. Beyond how effective he can be in attack, his defensive potential is probably even more interesting. The most important thing on that side has to do with his immense blocking ability. He got 9 blocks in his 69 NCAA minutes, and, for example, he blocked 6 of them in 23 minutes at the prestigious Nike Hoop Summit in 2019. Wiseman is a true specialist in this area. Do you want more defensive virtues? He is an excellent rebounder and is not limited to protecting the rim, but has enough agility to go out and score outside the paint. Of course, Wiseman also has his drawbacks, starting with the already mentioned lack of shooting at university level. Basically, teams will be selecting him based on what he did in his high school years, plus some exhibition events. In terms of features, offensively, the Nashville native is now a rather limited player. Beyond the flashes he shows on the perimeter, almost all of his conversions come as a finisher, and he contributes little as a shooter, low post player, or creator. Those limitations are also apparent as a passer. He registered only 1 assist during the short time in Memphis, and really offers very little in that area. In fact, the ball doesn't usually pass through his hands unless it's to take a shot or drop a bounce. Defensively, he also has his shortcomings, mainly related to fundamentals. Some of this could be seen during the game against the University of Oregon, in which he quickly got into foul trouble, falling into the hands of his opponents. His tendency to always be looking for the block can occasionally work against him. Coming out of high school, there were some questions about his engine and intensity, which will only be answered once we see him more often on the field. In turn, he must strengthen his body and be more physical in some defensive situations. If we had to compare him to other NBA players, we couldn't help but compare him to Hassan Whiteside or Jarrett Allen, to give 2 examples. So no matter what happens with the Warriors, and after having all their data on the table, we can only add that their projection in the draft is of the top 3. Do you agree with us? Well, if the answer is yes, then subscribe to our channel. We have many more videos for you in which you'll definitely be interested in. We hope you enjoyed the video. We publish Monday through Friday, so be sure to press the bell icon to be notified. And don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe down below, and check out some of these videos.